If this story found its way to you, it wasn't by chance. Some accounts don't call out. They wait. And when you notice you're already listening, subscribe to the channel and leave a like, not for support, but to continue, because stopping now would be the worst possible choice. Take a slow breath and go on. I slept badly. I dreamed of endless corridors and eyes that followed me through the dark. I woke up at 4 in the afternoon and opened my notebook. I typed Riverside Memorial Hospital into Google. The results were limited. The official website was basic. There was a news article from 2 years earlier. Riverside Memorial Hospital begins major renovations. I searched for Jessica Moore nurse, but there were hundreds of results. At 9:15 that night, I was back at Riverside Memorial Hospital. The same receptionist was at the desk. She looked up when I walked in. "Second night," she said. "Yes." "Was it difficult?" There was weight in that question. A little strange but manageable. She studied me. "Good luck." Inside the elevator, I watched my reflection. I looked tired. I entered the West Wing at exactly 10 and began my first round. The water stains I had barely noticed the night before were larger now. In room 512, there was a wide puddle on the floor, ice-cold water that seemed to come from nowhere. I reported it to security. Probably condensation. Maintenance will be notified in the morning. It was during the second round, close to midnight, that things began to get worse. Mr. Davis's heart monitor showed a strange pattern. Beat, beat, pause, beat. As if his heart were hesitating. I called the doctor on duty. "It's probably just monitor interference. Keep observing." In room 511, Mrs. Carter had changed position. She was on her side now, facing the door. I was certain she had been facing the other way before. Coma patients do not turn over on their own. In room 512, the water stain had spread even more. And now, there was something in it, something dark, like sediment. It was hair. Long black human hair floating in the water. I left the room quickly. Room 513 was waiting for me. I hesitated before entering. Then I forced myself to open the door. Mrs. Mitchell was sitting up in bed. My feet froze. She was sitting perfectly upright, tubes and wires still connected. Her body bent at a sharp 90-degree angle. Her eyes were open, fixed on me. And she was smiling, not a happy smile, a wrong one, a mechanical one. "Laura?" My voice came out as a whisper. She didn't answer. She just kept smiling. This wasn't possible. Vegetative patients do not sit up. But she was there, sitting, smiling. Then she spoke. "Sarah." Her voice was rough like rusted metal, but the words were clear. "Sarah, are you alone?" I finally managed to move. I stepped back. "Don't go. We get so lonely here." You can't be awake." "Awake?" She tilted her head, the movement completely wrong. "None of us are awake, Sarah. We're all sleeping, always sleeping." Her hand lifted, fingers slowly reaching out. "Come dream with us." I ran. I sprinted down the corridor, crashed into the nurse's station, grabbed the phone. I dialed 300. The on-call doctor. It rang and rang. No answer. I dialed 100. Security. The same. I dialed 911, the internal emergency line. The phone was dead. I looked at the double doors. I could run, I could leave. But what about the patients? I took a deep breath. Think, Sarah. Think clearly. Option 1, I was hallucinating. Option 2, something truly impossible was happening. I forced myself back into the corridor and approached room 513 again. I placed my hand on the door handle. I opened the door quickly. Mrs. Laura was lying in bed, completely still. Eyes open, fixed on the ceiling. She had never sat up. She had never spoken. I had imagined everything. I finished the round. Rooms 514 and 515 were normal. I returned to the station and filled out reports with shaking hands. It was 1 a.m. 5 hours still remained. At 2 a.m., I did another round. Room 510. Mr. Davis still had that strange heart rhythm. Now his eyelids were trembling. Room 511. Mrs. Carter was on her side again, and her lips were slightly curved into a faint smile. Room 512. The water had spread even further. It now covered almost the entire floor. Ice-cold water with black hair floating on the surface. I skipped room 514. I couldn't bring myself to go back inside. Rooms 514 and 515 seemed stable, but both patients now had their eyes open, fixed on the ceiling. I returned to the station and tried the phone again. This time there was a dial tone. I dialed 300. "Dr. Ramos." "Doctor!" Relief flooded my voice. "I need you to come here. Something is wrong." "What happened?" "I can't explain it, but please, can you come check?" There was a pause. "All right, I'll be there in 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, Dr. Ramos arrived. He was in his 50s with gray hair. "Sarah, you look pale." "Doctor, the patients, they're doing things." "What kind of things?" "Movement, changes in position. You should see for yourself." We started with room 510. He examined everything calmly. The heart rhythm is slightly irregular, but still within normal limits. In room 511, he repeated the exam. Muscle spasms can cause small movements. In room 512, he stopped when he saw the water. "This is new. Where is it coming from?" "I don't know." He touched the water. "Cold, probably condensation. I'll report it to maintenance." He didn't mention the hair. I looked at the puddle. The hair was still there. He simply didn't seem to see it. In room 513, Mrs. Mitchell was exactly as I had left her, lying still. Dr. Ramos completed his exam. "Everything looks normal." We finished the last 2 rooms. Everything was normal. "Sarah, have you worked night shifts before?" "Yes, for 5 years. But usually with a team, right?" "Most of the time." He nodded. "Working alone at night can be difficult. Old buildings make noises. Shadows create illusions. The mind tries to fill the emptiness." "I'm not imagining this. I'm not saying you are. But if you keep feeling uncomfortable, talk to Dr. Olivia Harper." He left, and I was alone again. Dr. Ramos hadn't seen the hair. He hadn't noticed the open eyes. Either I was losing my mind or something far worse was happening. The next hours dragged on. I did another round at 4, forcing myself to enter every room. At 5 in the morning, I found something that changed everything. I was reorganizing the medical files when I noticed an old folder. It had no name, only one line. "Project Morpheus, Phase 3. I opened it. Inside were research papers, consent forms, and reports. All dated 2 years earlier. Project Morpheus, Experimental Protocol. Lead investigator, Dr. Olivia Harper. Objective, to explore communication with patients in altered states of consciousness through the induction of shared dreams. Method, patients in deep coma will be exposed to specific brainwave frequencies in order to create a shared dream space. 6 patients had been selected. Their names were listed there: Mr. Robert Davis, Mrs. Susan Carter, Mr. Michael Anderson, Mrs. Laura Mitchell, Mr. Daniel Thompson, Mrs. Mary Collins, my patients. I kept reading. The early tests had been promising. The patients began to show synchronized brain activity. Then something went wrong. Incident report. Day 47. During the night session, all 6 patients entered extreme brain activity at the same time. The attending nurse, J. Moore, reported abnormal behavior. Patients opening their eyes, movement, vocal sounds. When she attempted to intervene, she claimed to have experienced visions and voices. The experiment was halted. J. Moore requested immediate transfer. Decision: Project Morpheus will be suspended indefinitely. There were more pages. But before I could continue, I heard a sound. All the patient room doors were opening, slowly, at the same time. I stood up, watching in horror as the 6 doors opened completely. Then, one by one, figures began to appear. The patients, all standing, all looking at me. Mr. Robert Davis, his fragile body held upright in an impossible way. Mrs. Susan Carter wearing that terrible smile. Mr. Michael Anderson, water dripping from him. Mrs. Laura Mitchell with her mechanical grin. Mr. Daniel Thompson, Mrs. Mary Collins. They began to walk, slowly, stiffly, their feet dragging across the floor. I stepped back, hitting the desk. "You're not real," I whispered. Mrs. Laura Mitchell spoke, and all the others spoke with her, their voices overlapping. "We are more real than we have ever been. More real than you." I pressed the folder against my chest. The project was cancelled. The frequencies were shut down. They stopped, forming a half circle around me. "Cancelled?" Mrs. Laura Mitchell said, now speaking alone. "You think they can cancel us?" "They opened a door, Sarah, a door that cannot be closed." "You're in a coma," I argued. "This is a hallucination. I'm exhausted." "You're right," Mr. Robert Davis interrupted. "You are seeing, finally seeing what we see." "There are two realities here," Mrs. Susan Carter said. "Their reality, doctors, machines, and our reality, the reality of dreams. And you're standing between them," Mr. Michael Anderson said, pointing at me. "You can see both sides, just like Jessica could." "What happened to her?" I asked. "She understood," Mrs. Mary Collins replied. "She understood that we are not the prisoners." Mr. Daniel Thompson stepped forward. "Project Morpheus didn't create a shared dream space, Sarah. It opened a door to something that already existed. Something old, something hungry. And now," Mrs. Laura Mitchell said, her smile stretching wider than it should, "it is waking up." The lights began to flicker violently. Not a gentle flicker, but a frantic strobe. Light, they were meters away. Darkness. Light, closer. Darkness. Light, so close I could feel their breath. I screamed and ran toward the double doors, swiping my badge again and again. Red light. Access denied. "No," I tried again. Red light. "You can't run from the dream, Sarah," they said together. "Once you see it, it sees you back." I ran down the corridor. There had to be an emergency exit. But when I reached the end, there was only a wall, as if there had never been a door there at all. The six stood several steps behind me. "We're going to show you," Mrs. Laura Mitchell said, "why Jessica ran." The world trembled, and then I saw it. Behind the patients, flowing out of them, was something else, a presence, vast, ancient, cold. It had no shape. It was a hollow shaped like a thing, a hole in reality itself. And it was hungry, hungry for life, for awareness, for the sparks that make living beings different from machines. The six patients were its anchors. Trapped between life and death, they held it in the space between dreaming and waking, but it was trying to cross. "Do you understand now?" Mrs. Laura Mitchell's voice softened. "Do you understand why we have to stay here? We are the barrier, the prison. And you were brought here to replace us." My heart sank. "What?" "Project Morpheus was never cancelled," Mrs. Susan Carter explained. "Dr. Olivia Harper knows. She keeps us here, but we are breaking down." "So she brings new nurses," Mr. Michael Anderson said, "one at a time, to see who is strong enough." "The ones who break leave," Mr. Daniel Thompson added, "like Jessica. The ones who don't," Mrs. Mary Collins paused, "they stay." "No," I stepped back. "You can't force me. We don't have to," Mrs. Laura Mitchell interrupted. "You will choose. I would never choose this." "Not yet, but you will. When you see what happens if this thing escapes." The floor beneath my feet began to dissolve, and I saw the thing break free. I saw it spread through the hospital, consuming everyone. I saw it grow, feeding, expanding through the city. Millions of minds touched, infected, pulled into the space where it waited. I saw a world where no one ever fully woke up again, and I saw the only thing holding it back. 6 sacrificed souls, voluntary prisoners, a living wall. The vision collapsed. I was back in the corridor, tears running down my face. "Now you understand," Mrs. Laura Mitchell said. "This can't be real. But it is, and you have a choice. Run now. Live with the knowledge. No one will believe you, or stay. When the time comes, when one of us is gone, you return. You take their place. You become part of the barrier. You're insane." "Maybe," she said, "but we're right." The light steadied. The patients began to retreat, their movements growing stiff again. "Your shift is ending," Mrs. Laura Mitchell said. "You'll leave, You'll live your life. But remember, Mr. Michael Anderson added, remember what you saw. And when we call, Mrs. Mary Collins finished, you will come. One by one they returned to their beds. The doors closed. When I checked the rooms minutes later, everything was exactly as it should be, still, unconscious, as if nothing had ever happened. I didn't go back the next night, or the night after that. I stayed home, the Project Morpheus file spread across the table, trying to process everything. I searched online. I found a short obituary from 2 months earlier. Jessica Moore, 38, passed away after a long battle with severe chronic insomnia. Jessica had never been able to sleep again after leaving Riverside Memorial Hospital, because she knew what waited in dreams. On the third day, my phone rang, an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Sarah, I imagine you've discovered a few things. We need to talk. Come to my office tomorrow at 10. Dr. Olivia Harper. I spent the night awake, researching, thinking. The next morning at 9:30, I was sitting in Dr. Harper's office. She wasn't alone. There was another woman with her, around 60 years old. White hair, sharp eyes. Sarah, Dr. Harper said, this is Dr. Isabel Ramos. She oversees Project Morpheus. I sat down. You've seen something very few people ever see, Dr. Ramos said, and you're still here. That says a lot about your strength. Strength? My voice came out rough. You used me as a test subject without my consent. You're right, Dr. Harper said. And we're sorry, but we needed to know if you could see. Most people can't, Dr. Ramos explained. Even when exposed, their minds don't register it. Some do, and most of those break, like Jessica. You killed her. It was suicide, Dr. Ramos said softly. She couldn't carry the knowledge. Why am I here? Dr. Ramos leaned forward. We want to give you the full truth, and then we want you to make a choice. Over the next 2 hours, they told me everything. Project Morpheus had started 25 years ago, not 2. The original research aimed to communicate with patients in coma. Dr. Augusto Vieira believed that minds in coma existed in a threshold state between waking and sleep, life and death. Using specific frequencies, he managed to synchronize multiple minds. And it worked. But they soon discovered they were not alone in that space. There was something else there, something that existed long before they arrived. A presence, a consciousness. Staff members began having nightmares, always the same ones. Figures watching from dark tunnels, whispering voices, a vast hunger. They tried to shut the project down, to turn off the frequencies, but when they did, the patients went into crisis, all at once. As if something were holding them, refusing to let them go. They could only stabilize them by keeping the frequencies active. The patients were trapped in the threshold, and the presence was using them as anchors. Dr. Vieira made a decision. He would keep 6 patients in a permanent threshold state. They would become a living prison for the presence, but someone had to care for them. Someone who could see if something changed. Most people couldn't. Some could. Jessica Moore had been one of them. For 2 years she kept watch, until she couldn't anymore, and now they needed another. You want me to be the next watcher, I said. With better conditions, Dr. Harper replied, more support and significantly higher pay. And if I become like Jessica? We'll do everything we can to prevent that, Dr. Ramos said, but there are risks. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, millions of people lived their lives, unaware of the horror contained here. And the patients? I asked. They said that eventually I would have to become one of them. The 2 women exchanged looks. The deterioration is accelerating, Dr. Ramos admitted. 6 may not be enough forever. If we reach a critical point, you want me to become part of the barrier. Only if there is no other option, Dr. Harper said. Only if we fail to find another solution. I need guarantees, I said. First, you never test people without consent again. They looked at each other. Agreed. Second, full access to all research. Agreed. Third, if the day comes when I must become part of the barrier, you give me a way out. I won't end like Jessica. Dr. Harper closed her eyes. Agreed. Then I accept, but on one final condition. You never stop looking for a real solution, a way to destroy or ban that thing permanently. We never stopped, Dr. Ramos said. You have my word. I extended my hand. They shook it, and that is how I became the guardian of a secret I could never share. Today marks exactly 3 years since my first night at Riverside Memorial Hospital. I still work here 6 nights a week. The patients have changed. Some passed away and were replaced by others, but the barrier remains, always 6. I have learned to live with what I see. The manifestations are less frequent now, or maybe I have simply grown used to them, and I can still feel that presence, always waiting, always hungry, but the barrier holds. Dr. Ramos kept her word. The research continues. A small team is still searching for a way to ban the entity permanently. There is still no solution. Sometimes in the dead hours before dawn, I wonder if I made the right choice. Then I remember the vision, the millions of souls that would have been consumed. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am 35 years old. I am a night shift nurse at Riverside Memorial Hospital, and I am the guardian of a secret that could destroy the world. But there is something the doctors do not know. Something I discovered on my own. The barrier is weakening. Every month I feel that presence pressing harder. The manifestations are becoming more physical. And 3 weeks ago, I found water stains outside the West Wing. On the 4th floor. On the 3rd. The thing is growing stronger, and I know with terrible certainty that the day will come when 6 will no longer be enough. When the barrier will need me. I don't know when it will happen. Tomorrow, 10 years from now, but it is coming. And when they call me to take my place in the barrier, when they ask me to give up my body and become part of that eternal prison, I still don't know if I will accept. Because there is another secret, one I keep even from myself. On the quietest nights, I sometimes hear another voice, not theirs, not the entity's, from inside me. And that voice whispers something terrible, something tempting. What if you set them free? What if you let the barrier fall? What if you discovered what really happens when the thing escapes? Because there is a possibility no one has considered. What if the entity is not the only prisoner? What if the 6 patients are not only holding it back? What if they are keeping us out? What if that dream space and that dimension of pure awareness is where we truly belong? What if this reality, this world of flesh and bone, pain and death, is the real prison? I think about it sometimes, in the dead hours, and I wonder. And I hope that when the moment comes, I will have the courage to do the right thing, whatever that may be.
If you are reading this, it means I made my choice. It was not the one they expected. I did not become part of the barrier. I brought it down. Because I understood a truth no one wanted to face. The thing at the threshold was not an invader. It was part of us. It always had been. Our collective fear. Our shared darkness. Trapped and starving. By keeping it imprisoned, we were only making it stronger. More desperate. So I set it free. Not in the way they feared. Not as a destructive entity. I integrated it. I opened my own dream space. I invited it inside. And together, we became one. Now it is no longer trapped between worlds. It is spread across millions of dreams, processing fear naturally, as it always should have. The 6 patients woke up, finally free. And I now exist on both sides. Awake and dreaming, alive and beyond life. I am no longer just Sarah. I am the bridge, the mediator, the willing guardian, and I am at peace. If you are reading this at night, before you sleep, know this. You are safe. I am there, in your dreams, making sure nightmares never become more than you can bear. Sleep well. You are protected. Sarah Mitchell.
The folder was found by Dr. Olivia Harper 5 days after Sarah Mitchell stopped coming to work. All 6 patients in the West Wing woke up that same night. All of them. At the same time. Completely recovered in an impossible way. Sarah's body was never found. But since that night, Dr. Harper has slept better than she has in 25 years. She no longer has nightmares. No one in the hospital does, and sometimes in the quietest hours before dawn, she swears she can feel a presence. Gentle, familiar. As if Sarah were still there, somewhere beyond dreams, watching, protecting, keeping the promise she made, in a way no one ever expected, ever.